Hey y'all. So it's summer. Got my summer theme outfit on. Got the leaves with this orange, the foresty background. Okay. But I'm ready to share my thoughts on the first few chapters of Resisting Happiness. Now, what's interesting is I basically held myself back from posting this because I was experiencing a lot of what the first chapter discusses, which is resistance, right? And it's really difficult because, you wake up, or no, the night before, you can sit there and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to plan to make this, or I'm going to go out and do this. But then when the day comes, it's like your whole energy is different for one reason or another. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep. Maybe you got too much sleep. Maybe you didn't eat enough. Maybe you ate too much. I don't know. But anyway, there's so many factors like emotional, spiritual, mental, physical that go into why somebody doesn't do something or why they do something. And so today I struggle with that. To be honest with you, I really struggle with that. And it was hard. Because to even come out here and get on camera, because I'm saying to myself, who's gonna listen to this? I have listeners, so that's crazy. Or who is going to really resonate with what I'm saying? I was experiencing a lot of imposter syndrome. Okay, I learned a lot of new family secrets that I'm less than happy about, that also kept me from moving forward with my goal to put this out sooner. A lot of things have shifted, but not in a bad way. It's actually a really good way. It's just my processing time got the better of me, and I was really just like wallowing in everything that I had learned. And, I'm human. It happens, but I'm here now and I'm ready to talk. So let's do it. So the first chapter, 111. Anyway, the first chapter is about resistance. So that basically talks about, what do we do to stop ourselves from moving forward? I just discussed a few of the things that I do. Maybe you can take some notes down on what you do as soon as you wake up. Like, what are your emotions that you notice as soon as you awaken in the morning, right? Or even, thinking about what is the first thing that shoots to your mind when you wake up? Is it writing down the dream you had? Is it making sure that the kids are okay if you have kids or animals, whatever your responsibilities are? Or is it first taking care of yourself and making sure that you're grounded and okay and well before you start your day? Like, whatever it is that your first thought is, I want you to write that down every day. What's your first thing that you think about as soon as you open your eyes? Okay? Take note of that. And then follow that up with what stops you from taking action on certain things during your day. Like, what are your top 3 triggers that tell you, no, I can't do this, no, I don't want to do this, or no, this isn't going to work. And then counteract that with 3 things that will make it work, that will allow you to energetically have the capacity to, or the mental capacity to follow through with your plans, right? So, do a what helps and what holds me back list. Do that. Because confirmation. I think it really is important to discuss with yourself and know what your triggers are. Because if you just move through life and you're like, oh, I don't like this, so I'm not going to explore, or I'm not going to dive in, whatever. Or life is life. Like, you try to use one of those generalizing terms, it actually slows you down even more because it doesn't give you anything to look forward to. That's what causes that resistance. Us as humans, naturally, we should be goal oriented. Like, my kids, their goal is to get a new car all the time. So they're always trying to work towards a new car or a new experience or something like that. As humans, we're goal oriented people. So understand what's holding back your goals, understand what's helping your goals. And that'll kind of keep you on a good mental track if you stick with that. And so now I want to discuss, I have the book in front of me. I think that we should all understand. One note that I wanted to make was that fighting resistance is a daily struggle. It's not oh, this is happening because this situation on this day or whatever. It's a every day, every hour, constant thing that we have to battle within ourselves. It's not just okay, I'm like, you can't delete your ego. You can't do that. You can't remove yourself from ego or any type of emotion, really, whether it be negative or positive. So the best thing you can do is allow yourself to navigate through it naturally without judgment. And that's the key part, without judgment. Because judging ourselves is really more detrimental than whatever judgment anybody else can place on us. Because if we don't believe in ourselves, anybody can manipulate us. Anything can manipulate us. Any thought, any feeling, any experience can manipulate us. And that's just not cool. It's not cool for you. It's not cool for whoever is around you, who takes in your energy with you, because you exude that energy whether you try to or not. So, that's why they say people need people, because it's true. And I think this quote is really powerful. It actually says, "The hardest war to win is one you don't even realize you are fighting. And the hardest enemy to defeat is the one you don't even know exists. Every day you are at war with resistance." Yes. So, like I said before, doing those lists that I had mentioned is really going to help you, because you can't help yourself against something that you don't know is going on if you're not analyzing your surroundings, the people you're with, the effects it has on you emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and all of those things. And I think a lot of times we just move through life to get to the next thing. Even if something hurts, we cry about it. We might, go out and get into distractions, drinking, smoking, dancing, hanging out with friends, anything that entertains us enough to not have to think about that thing for a long enough period of time to experience enough happiness to get us through that moment. But then it will resurface, because everything that is unhealed resurfaces in some type of way or form. That's just the truth. That's just the way life is, and it sucks, but that's how it is. So, better to address it than to see it, know it's there, and not acknowledge it, which is different than seeing it and knowing it's there. Acknowledging it means that you're actually taking the action to dive in, see what happened, and see how you can be better. Because life is all about getting us to be better people, be better versions of ourselves. And if we don't, then guess what? It gets trickled down into our bloodlines, to our families, to our loved ones, for them to heal, because we decided not to. And healing is forever, right? So we're all going to have to heal from something, no matter what generation we come from, no matter what our situations are, no matter how much money we have or don't have, whatever like that. We all have something to heal from. And I think it's for the highest good of entirety, not just yourself, because you cannot expect that what you deal with alone only affects you alone. That's the difference. You might be going through something by yourself, but it does not only affect you. And even if you try to hermit yourself and you try to stay home and you're like, I'm not going to talk to people anymore, I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm just going to stay to myself, get my money, and do whatever, that's not as helpful as you think it is. Because, like I said before, people need people. Okay? So, and people need your energy. You wouldn't be here if you weren't needed, right? So, I think it's best that's when it comes in where you have to learn how to see your worth, because we all have worth. And, even though we might see ourselves in a negative light or something like that, somebody else could come along, see us and be like, I needed you in my life. Where have you been all my life? Right? And you're like, what? I'm just me. I didn't do anything. This is natural for me. But if you think about the old saying, what's natural for this insect or animal, I don't remember, I'm going to botch this, whatever, but you get what I'm saying, is hell for this animal, insect, or whatever. But people need certain things. Animals, insects, whatever, need each other. It's a whole ecosystem, and we all need to be taking care of it and taking care of it. The best way to do that, taking care of our ecosystem is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. The best way to do that is to take care of your portion of the ecosystem, is what I'm trying to say. And so, moving on to chapter 2 is the discussion of your quest for happiness. So, there's this quote here that states, what is most disturbing and humbling is that even now that I know how resistance works, how to recognize it, and how to overcome it, there are still daily instances when I allow it to win. We tend to see these patterns in other people's lives with much more clarity than we see them in our own. That is so true, okay? Have you ever witnessed something within yourself that you do and you're like, I'm going to change this, right? I'm going to work on this. And then at some point in your day or in your life in general, you meet somebody who does the same thing that you want to change about yourself, and then you get irritated. That irritation is rooted in the fact that it's something that you need to work on for yourself, because we're all mirrors for each other. We're all mirrors for each other in one way, shape, or form, right? So what we see in others, if we don't like it, it's probably something that we need to work on. And that's normally something that people don't want to hear. But a lot of times it's true. It's not always true. I never say always, or I don't like to say always when I'm talking about things, because, life is life. There's different variables to everything and whatever. But generally, when you're experiencing a person and experiencing something that you like in them, it's like adding to your life experience. If you're experiencing something that you don't like, maybe it's something that either you've experienced in someone else or in yourself that you don't like, that needs to be changed. So, like I said, it could either be you experiencing it for yourself, or because you experienced it in someone else and you just didn't like it. And then that's a red flag to tell you the direction you need to go in, which is away from that person or that experience. Okay? So, I also want to discuss this other quote in the book that says, this is the paradox that surrounds our quest for happiness. We know the things that will make us happy, but we don't always do them. My theory on this statement is the fact that we don't always do what makes us happy because we don't know the entire outcome if we do it. like how it's going to affect our lives. Is it going to be a positive effect? Is it going to be a negative effect? How is it going to affect anybody else who might be tied to the situation when making this decision? And, so a lot of those things cross our mind when we're deciding on, should we choose our own happiness? Should we choose happiness for others to try to keep the peace? Especially if you're dealing with like a workspace issue and like maybe a bunch of people uh, have not gotten along together for one reason or another, but there's no discussion about it, and you want to keep the peace in the place. And so you just try to remove the person that seems to be the problem. But then if the problem doesn't, disappear, then it might not have been that person. And then it might just be the leadership that's around, and the leadership needs to have some type of rein on what's going on, and that might not be happening. So I think that it's important to understand that it's natural to not go along with what makes you happy, but then to understand that there are consequences with that, because you are, in fact, neglecting yourself, essentially abusing yourself, because you've decided, no, my happiness is not as important as these other people's happiness. And, then you end up self-sabotaging what could have been something that changed your life, right? And sometimes we get second chances, sometimes we don't, right? And so I think that really needs to be weighed out on whether you're going to take that step or not. I mean, it's okay to be scared, because of course we're all afraid of the unknown, right? But, follow your intuition, follow your heart, but especially your intuition, because your intuition is always right for you, okay? Because you cannot go around trying to manipulate outcomes and trying to make someone else's life experience better when you're not catering to yours. You cannot fill anybody else's cup when yours is empty. And I've said this before, but yeah, it's really true. Let's see. And then I want to discuss this statement. What makes you happy? Do you know? Before we jump into that question, a better place to start might be with this question. Are you happy? I think that's another question that we neglect answering for ourselves, because we're so busy trying to work, trying to get outcomes, money, results. And we're not really making sure we're genuinely happy with what we're doing, as long as what we're doing is going to accomplish what we're trying to get done. And what we're trying to get done might very well not make us happy at all. But just to say that we accomplished something is important to some of us. To say that I am somebody, I have done something, as opposed to having substance to that outcome. Having outcomes is fine. Having accomplishments is fine. Of course, we all would love to be somebody, be a thing, do a thing, whether it has huge impact or not. It's more so we just want to accomplish things, right? But I think the ultimate goal as a spirit, because we're just spirits having a human experience, is to make sure that you're happy. Happiness breeds wealth, a wealth of abundance, a wealth of health, a wealth of everything that you need and want comes from when you're happy. And obviously, if it's not hurting anybody else, what makes you happy, if it's not hurting anybody else, do it. And it also suggests here, give yourself a happiness score between 1 and 10 over the past 3 months. Don't base it on how you feel today or over the past 3 months. So that's another piece of homework, along with the, what are my first thoughts, what's keeping me from reaching those goals, and what's helping me to reach those goals. We also want to talk about, between 1 and 10 over the past 3 months. What are you happy? Are you happy for real? And then if it's yes, why? If it's not, why? What are you missing? What do you have that makes you happy, that you maintain? Reflect on those things. And I think it'll give you a really good perspective on what you're feeding in your life, what you're putting your energy into. And you can kind of navigate that better when you have it on paper, because you're actually looking at it. You've actually taken the time to write it and process. I think, I'll share what makes me happy. Dancing, swimming, and learning new things. Now, I do the dancing alone, and that's okay. I haven't been swimming in a while, so I miss it so much. And then learning new things, I do that every day. So as you can see, I'm like kind of, pouring into myself the way I should be. However, because of circumstances and everything like that, I just don't fully, I'm not able to fully fill my cup right now. And I think that's okay, because it's teaching me that, not only that I can't have everything that I want when I want it, but it's teaching me how to move through life when I don't have the things that I would like to have. And I think that's an important skill, because then you can make do with what you do have and find the happiness in that. Because you're always where you're supposed to be. You always have what you need to have. You always have the people that you're supposed to have with you. So never think, I could have done this different. I could have had this. I could have, shoulda, woulda. All of that. All of those things that you're thinking about are nothing but possibilities. It's not fact. It's not, because if it was meant to be, it would have. That's the cold truth. If it was meant to be, it would have been. And since it wasn't, it didn't need to be. And I know that's hard to move from, but, take it as a chance to move through finding something new out about yourself. And then chapter 3, I want to discuss, and then I'll get out of here because I don't want to make this too long, right? Chapter 3 is about making sense of everything. Okay, so now we have our lists. Now we know what makes us happy. We know what's holding us back. We know if we are happy or if we aren't happy. We've clocked that too. Okay, so now we're trying to make sense of what in the world do I do now that I know where I'm at in my life. And I think it's important to note that nothing on earth can satisfy your desire for happiness. Nothing on earth. That's just real. That's just what it is. Okay? So that means you have to find happiness within yourself. Like, external things, the idea is that external things such as people, places, and things should be adding to your happiness. It should not be what makes you happy. So like, if you're alone by yourself and say you can't get to a place, or you can't talk to a person, or you can't have a thing, what you gonna do? Okay? What are you gonna do? That is the key that you need to find out. Because once you get forced into what's called a hermit hermit mode, where you are forced to be alone with yourself and rediscover yourself, refine yourself, are you gonna crack? You gonna break? Okay? So that's what that's about. It's really like understanding that nothing is permanent. All you have is yourself. And how can you satisfy yourself? And don't be sick. Don't be nasty. Okay? Um, you know, think about what your interests were as a kid. Maybe that'll help you tap in to your creative ideas and really into your imagination to help you understand what you might want to look into. Like for me, I found out I'm still into designing clothes. I'm still into writing poetry. I'm still into making jewelry. I'm still into crafting things, filming things, doing short films and things. All of the stuff that I used to do as a kid, I still like it. But I just became an adult and I was like, no, now I have to focus on work. I have to focus on getting degrees. I have to focus on practical things, right? I can't, there's no time for fun. And I think as we get older, a lot of us tend to think that there isn't time to explore those things. Like it should have been more in something that we did as a kid and then kind of still dabble in from time to time, but it's not really something that we have time to engage in because everybody, especially with the economy now, is just focused on work, 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 work. Where's my next check coming from? Where's this coming from? How am I going to do this? And I don't have time to slow down and be creative, and that's just not true. I think that actually helps with the mental processing of, figuring out next steps because your brain isn't on go. It isn't like so forced to be stuck thinking about this one thing all the time. It can really be, let me just give my brain and my heart and my soul a brief break to enjoy something and not have to strategize, not have to make a plan, just flow with it. It creates flow. Just like the blood in our bodies need flow, we need water to hydrate to then create that flow, all of the things. So I think it's important to really dive into what creates flow for you. What initiates that flow? What keeps it going? And diving into that and not being so focused on making sure that we're putting money in our pockets, because in order to do that, in order to create flow of thought, flow of creativity on trying to create logistics and plans and things like that, all comes from engaging in what creates flow for you. So add that to the things to do that I've said. So we've got the list, okay? We've got the list of what is holding me back, what is feeding my goals, what's my first thought in the morning, and why. And then we're also talking about if we're happy or not, and, what happiness looks like for us, feels like for us. And then also diving into what creates flow for you. Those are the different lists, different thoughts I want you to process after this episode or during, because I think these are really important concepts to dive into, and I'll do it too, and then we can do it together and discuss. I'm really excited. Once again, I'm sorry for the late post, but I really had to battle through some resistance of my own. So like I said in the short clip that I did for this episode, we're in this together. So I'll catch y'all on the next wave. And also, I'll have a special guest on my next episode, which will be next week on the 16th. And she has a book coming out. And I'll tell you guys about it. I'm excited. And I look forward to speaking with you all again. And we'll be discussing starting chapter 4, which is about, let me tell you, resisting God. Mm, mm, mm. Well, it's getting deep, and I'm excited because I'm learning along with y'all, and that's okay. I don't mind being vulnerable, obviously. I don't mind saying what my flaws are because I understand that as a human, we're supposed to have flaws and actually should not be ashamed to share them because it might help somebody else. And that is the goal of this podcast. So the more I know, the more we grow. That's how I see it.